Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is the Price Variance Show, and we got a very special show where we're each going to be looking at 3 independent comics. So we're going to do 3 each on this channel and 3 on Mark's channel. And I recommend you watch both because it's going to be a lot of interesting things. Like, I'm not sure what Mark's bringing, so he's going to probably get me shopping more again. I always end up shopping after these videos. And with that being said, let's get into the video. So Mark, what do you have to show me? I'm curious.
Okay, so this was quite difficult for me because I've got a lot of independent comics. I mean, most of what I read, to be honest, I don't read a lot of Marvel and DC, but I do read a lot of independent comics. So the first one I'm going to show you was one of my favorite comic series from last year. And it is a comic called We Live.
Oh, okay.
This is actually a New York Comic Con special sort of foil cover one. I'm just using this to talk about it, really. So it was a 5-issue. So did you read this?
I have it, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay. It's
I heard there's even like music for it too.
Yeah. You can click on a QR code and it takes you, because one of the brothers, it's written by the Miranda brothers. So one of them is a comic artist and the other is a musician. So one wrote music to go with the series, and you can actually click on a QR code and it takes you to the music. I'm going to put that down because it's all shiny and it's reflecting.
Yeah, it's really hard to see actually.
So one wrote the music and one did the comic book art. And it's with a publisher called Aftershock, who's quite a small publisher. And they sort of said at the time, look, this is a bit of an experiment. It'll either work or it doesn't work. And effectively, it followed the story of a brother and sister, Tala and Hototo. And one of the reasons I'm raising this is that it was hugely successful. It got Eisner nominated. And consequently, they are bringing out a second story arc.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, which follows on from the first story arc. And this is the reason I'm raising this, is that it comes out in March and pre-orders are now open. So I strongly suggest that if you want some of these, you get the pre-orders, because this has become hugely popular. And it's one of those things that I think could well sell out. So it's We Live. Suggest you get the first series, which is now quite pricey. And I suggest you put your pre-orders in for issue 1 of the new series and any variants that you want, because there's some nice looking variants as well. So that's my first pick, first independent comic, We Live, by the Miranda brothers from Aftershock.
Okay, so when I think of independent, I think of anything that's not Marvel or DC.
Yeah.
If that's fair.
Yeah, it is fair. I think Image is now so large that it's almost not independent.
Okay, and the other one that I'm thinking is kind of maybe not independent is the one I'm about to show. It's Dynamite.
Oh, Dynamite.
They're pretty big. I think they have a fair number of sales. I'm actually going to show a bunch of comics, and the reason I'm going to show a bunch of comics when I describe a series is sometimes when I buy things, I don't buy it to read. I just buy it for, I love the art.
Yeah. The
covers are just amazing. So it's kind of weird. So I kind of wanted to show that. And the series is called Jennifer Blood.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to show you, it's all sexy girl covers. So, so this is like the cosplay one, I guess. Then we got, just kind of,
and are these,
I'm not sure
are these relatively new, Alan, or are they a few?
These are all relatively new. I think they're at number 5 or 6 right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, and the James Linsner, sorry, is it James? Why always mess his name up? Linsner, just Linsner. Okay. He does some of the art.
Yeah, it's nice covers.
I think is is it Joe Lisner or John Linsner? Oh, I always forget his first name. I always mess up his first name, but it's Linsner. So these are all number one. But and then I got like some sexy one. This was like a store exclusive. Some big busty girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got that at the Comic-Con. And then they even had like a lingerie one. Like, so sexy girl covers.
Yeah.
So if you're into sexy girl covers, the story I actually read like the first couple of issues. It's like, typical what you expect. It's like a girl assassin goes around killing people, blah blah. People die, blah, blood, splats. Sexy girl covers. Okay.
Yeah.
But actually it has one of my favorite covers of all time in it. I'll actually show you that. I really love this cover. I think this is number 4.
Oh,
I really love this cover.
That's a cool cover. I like the red and the black.
I really love this cover. It's I just love looking at it for some reason. I just think it's really sexy. Another thing that they did that's kind of cool is they were doing like homage covers to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
So Dynamite did like a whole bunch of these. I actually tried to collect them all, like Vampirella, Red Sonja, and all of them had like these like Ninja Turtle covers.
Dynamite are crazy on alternative covers. They do go mad.
Yeah, so they even they did that one, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 1, but they also did the Raphael number 1 with Jennifer Blood. So I don't know. Sometimes I buy things just for the covers. I just love the covers, and like just so many great covers. I'll show some more just because I love these covers. Okay, I'm going to show a bunch. This is like some sexy girl. See, it's sexy girl covers. Okay, that's the only description I can give. And this is like the Virgin variant.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay, so yeah. So I know it's kind of weird, but that was I figured that was one to show. Okay, so sometimes it's weird what I pick.
Yeah, I mean, you show more comics there than I've got for both of our recordings put together. Right. Okay, so my second one is another one that was one of my top comics from last year. And this is a shiny metal cover as well, so it's going to reflect the light badly as also. And this is a series from Boom, and it's written by one of my favorite writers at present called Ram V, who's very prolific at the moment. He's currently writing Venom, and previously he had been writing Catwoman and Swamp Thing. He still is writing Swamp Thing, because although it came to the end of the story arc, it was so successful they're doing a second story arc. So this is Ram V, and it's a I think it was a 6-issue series that he did called The Many Deaths of Lila Starr.
I think you mentioned this one on your channel before.
I have mentioned it on my channel. This one,
yeah.
I met Ram V at a Comic-Con last year, and he signed this, so this is a signed copy. This is a really great series. It's Ram V says that the comic writer he admires the most is Alan Moore, and you can really tell that in his writing. He's very Alan Moore-like. In fact, the main character in here, Lila Starr, is actually Death. So what happens in this is that the Death character is called into God's office in episode 1, and God tells her that somebody on Earth has invented immortality, and therefore she's out of a job, and he gives her P45, saying you're out of a job, dear. So you're going to have to go down to Earth. You're going to have to go down to Earth. So she possesses the body of a woman who's just died, is this Lila Starr here. She then starts to stalk the guy who's going to invent immortality. And it basically follows her around. She gets killed about she gets killed about 6 times, but of course she's immortal. So each episode she comes back to life. Now this one here was my favorite. You can see she's smoking a cigarette here.
I guess she doesn't have to worry about it.
Well, she doesn't have to worry about it, but this issue here is written from the point of view of the cigarette.
That's very odd.
Really odd, really different. And in fact, it's the cigarette that kills her at the end of this one, because she gets killed at the end of each issue. And of course, the cigarette starts a fire and she gets killed in the fire. So, but a really different series, quite funny. And I thought it was one of the best new comic series. The only regret I've got for Ram V is he's now got lots of work with the big boys writing the main titles, and I don't think that gives him enough freedom, because if you're writing for DC or you're writing for Marvel, you get restricted in what you can do. You've got to write to a certain set of rules. Whereas when he's doing something like this, a 6-issue mini series for an independent, he can write what he wants. So I'm hoping he's still going to be able to do some independent stuff and let his imagination run wild, because you can't do that when you're working for Marvel or DC.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, wow. I mean, I'm not sure if I picked that up or not, actually. I picked up so many things. I actually saw your video on it before, and that one really intrigued me. I was looking for it in my local comic shop. It's a pretty recent one too, right? It came out last year.
No, last year. It was middle of last year, so I think it was as April to October, something like that.
And it's still like a cover buy, right?
Yes, yeah, mainly. I reckon you'll be able to pay just about cover price for it. Maybe you'll have to pay a bit more for some of these, for the glossy
ones. Yeah, okay, yeah. Cool. So okay, this one is from Cartoon Books, and this I went from sexy girls. I figure I should get more back to that PG rating. So I figured I'll show some kids books. So this is Bone #1. So I'm a big fan of Bone. I just love the whole storyline is pretty good. It's pretty cool storyline. It's Jeff Smith that writes it, and basically it's a very simple situation that has many complexities. It's the interesting thing about it. So he basically takes these characters, 3 characters that get kicked out of their town because one of the characters is a bit of a crook. He's always scamming his local town people, and they just get tired of them and kick them out. So they're sort of on this journey where they get lost and find this weird hidden valley that has dragons and creepy creatures and women that are super strong that can beat up cows or fight or run. Well, they do a cow race. So it's all these kind of interesting storylines, and then there's also this hooded figure and locusts and just a whole bunch of really kind of cool stories that you feel like when you're reading it, it's not just one story that's happening. And that's what's really interesting. Normally when you read most comics, it's one character and you're sort of watching that one character kind of progress.
Yeah.
With Bone, I find it's 3 or 4, maybe 5 storylines that are all happening at the same time. And you can really feel that. It's not just his storyline or one of the, Phone Bones storyline that's happening. It's other people's storylines are progressing throughout the story as well. Yeah. And you can feel them every so often they interact. And it's really interesting the way he wrote it. I really, really enjoy Bone. I actually have all of the original series, all first prints. Right. I got them when they came out. So I don't recommend buying them because they're utterly expensive now. It's a $2,000 book in this grade. But you can buy the trade paperback.
Yeah.
and that's like 20-30 bucks. So I recommend that if you're buying it to read. It's just definitely one that I have a real appreciation for. I actually have Jeff Smith signed a bunch of mine and did some original sketches and some of my early bones. So it's kind of cool. So yeah.
It's something I've never read.
It's a good read, really
I
good
do
read.
actually have a bone. I think, did Dark Horse do a bone series?
It was Image.
Image, that's it. Yes, it was. Yeah. So I have actually got the Image bone, but I haven't actually read it. Maybe following your discussion, I'll get it out and read it. And if I like it, I might go and buy the trade paperback.
The stories are very simple. It's a very quick read.
Yeah.
You can actually I just recently kind of reread the first 20 issues, and it took me like an hour or two. It was not like, long read or anything like that. So it's a pretty quick read.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm going to read my Image one. If I like it, I'm like tempted to get the trade paper because it's just something I haven't read, and I am aware of it. It's people talk about it all the time, very fondly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's one I think that they're going to do either a TV series or something about it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those ones where I think they're going to do something because it's just too great of a story not to.
Yeah. Right, my last one is here we go. It's Simpson comics. This obviously is a homage to Fantastic Four 1,
Mm-hmm.
with Homer replacing Mole Man. So this came out in 1993. This is quite a pricey comic now, but it's not as pricey as it could be because it came out in 93, so there were probably loads of these produced because we were at the beginning of the 90s, when just before we had the crash due to the huge numbers of comics that were being produced. So I suspect there were quite a lot of these, but it's still a $200 or $300 book in a 9.8. But this actually ran for 25 years. So it ran from 1993 through to 2018. What I'm actually looking for at the moment is the last issue, which I think was something like 248, which I suspect is be a lot rarer than issue 1.
Yeah.
Because
the last issues are always really rare.
Well, yeah, and also I checked on Comicron, and there was only about 5,000 or 6,000 of issue 248 produced. Well, I suspect there was a heck of a lot more of these. So yeah, and I think it's a great shame this is not still operating. Bongo closed up shop in 2018, and I think there is a lack of funny comics at the moment.
I can't think of any actually.
No. So we had Simpsons and we had SpongeBob up until 2018. Scooby-Doo, is Scooby-Doo still going? I know it was a lot.
I think so. They did some crossovers with DC.
Yeah, I think
like DC characters.
They might still be going, so that's maybe the only one. But yeah.
And then there's Archie. The only other one would be Archie, I guess. Yeah.
Is that funny or is it cute? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas Simpsons and SpongeBob were funny,
yeah.
And they put a lot of effort into these comics. They weren't just reproducing what they did in the TV series. They produced original material for both the Simpson comics and for SpongeBob. So yeah, I think this is a really nice series. Some really funny stuff. The Simpsons, it must be one of the most repeated and most popular cartoon series of all time. I can never see it going away. It's just going to live on repeats forever. So I think these early Bongo comics, they're not that difficult to pick up because it was early 90s. But I think they're relatively good. Nostalgic buys. Nostalgia sells comics. The people who were around and 12 or 13 when these came out, you know, are now in their 40s and they've got some spare money.
Yep. So yeah, actually, that's not the first issue though.
There's one called Simpson Comics and Stories, which has Bart Simpson on the front.
Yeah, that's the number one. Yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't a continuing series. That was a one-off.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first of this.
I'm just saying, just if you want to get the first appearances, get that one. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
And it is a bit more pricey. So yes, I've actually got.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is a bit more.
I didn't realize it was much. Believe it or not, I had to pick up a second copy of it. I have 2 copies now. One was stolen by my son because he loves The Simpsons. And then I bought another one from my comic shop maybe last year, just to fill in the fact that my son stole mine. And I paid like $10 for it. So
price, because it's a lot more expensive. It's quite.
Yeah, it was like less than $10 actually. It was like $8 or something. It wasn't much.
Yeah.
So yeah. But definitely one that I would recommend people read. I'm a big fan of The Simpsons, actually. I'm actually going to show you kind of a weird one. And, this is indie, very indie, okay? And I'm mentioning this one because you mentioned something. We did a little show together, a separate show, where we talked about Mouse.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm actually going to show you something related to that.
Right.
If you look at the first page of Mouse, there's like appendices where it's sort of not appendices, but it's kind of like that, where it says like previously printed in blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it shows like earliest one is 1973. Okay. And it mentions this comic, Short Order Comics.
Okay. Yeah, I mentioned this. Yes. I did have a look for it.
So I highly recommend people pick this up. I saw 3 listings on eBay for this book. I picked up one of them. It goes for anywhere from $20 to $30. Okay.
Yeah.
And it came out 13 years before the Mouse book. So,
but it's got Mouse in it, has it?
No, it doesn't. But it does, if that makes sense. So inside is a story. I forgot, it was Hell on like something Hell, Living in Hell or something like that, where it's kind of like Nazi kind of concentration camp kind of story. And it's sort of
it's by Art Spiegelman, is it?
It's by Art Spiegelman, and it's sort of the basis for Mouse. Right. So this is the almost like a prequel. It doesn't use mice characters, it uses actual people, but it's very similar. Like it's like kind of, you can see that it's the influence for Mouse, right? Yes. So definitely a kind of a cool indie book. This is like indie, like this is from what is it called?
Kitchen Sink.
I thought it was Kitchen Sink, but I don't think so. It doesn't say. It looks like Kitchen Sink, but it says Press Head, or Head Press. Head Press.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, that's another one of those ones, like Crumb and all those guys are in it. So and it has like all those kind of independent artists, right? Like Robert Crumb and all that kind of stuff. So this is Short Order Comics #1. This is the first print. I believe that there are second prints, so you got to be a little bit careful on that, but it's a kind of a cool comic, I think, kind of under the radar. One of the things that I always do is whenever something gets hot, I always kind of look for that periphery, right? Where you see kind of other things, and maybe other things that, if you're interested in the story, that actually feed into that story and give you sort of more of a sense of the story. So it's kind of a weird one to recommend, but
that's really interesting. I'll be off looking for a copy of that before this goes out.
Yeah. So Short Order Comics #1. So I don't know. I just thought that would be cool. So that's the show, I guess. So we're gonna do the next 3 parts on your channel.
Indeed.
It'll be fun over there. I recommend that people check out Mark's channel regardless of this show, especially your What's on My Shelf series is really great. And I highly recommend it to people because one thing, and it's something I kind of did in my own way. Like I did it sort of in a different way. What I did was I was going, what's in my long box? I dig inside of my long boxes. But I think yours is actually a better format, and it might be a format that I steal because it's much more condensed. it's and it's a really good way of looking at some of the more obscure things that we collect, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I thought, I'm going to put some things on. I'm going to talk about things on my shelf, so I'm going to call it "What's on My Shelf." It's
Yeah.
a really complex concept. But anyway,
I think it's great, so I really enjoy it. So yeah, that's this part. See you next time.
yeah.
Okay.